I'm Sam. Welcome to Brickwall Pictures. Today I'm doing a Best Picture winners tier list. These movies all won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So you'd think that must mean they're all S-tier movies, right? Well, maybe not. Let's go through these and see how many times the Oscars got it right and how many times the Oscars got it wrong. Because we all know the Oscars gets it wrong from time to time, but not always. So let's go ahead and evaluate these. I have a shit ton of Best Picture winners here. So many, in fact, that it is spilling off the bottom of the tier list and off the sides of the little bank where I usually keep them. I think we have 45 Best Picture winners here. First up is Forrest Gump. It's a great movie. Great Tom Hanks role. One of Robert Zemeckis' best movies. It's from his era before he got obsessed with this weird uncanny valley animation that completely sidelined his whole career. It's good. It deserved Best Picture over, this was the year that it infamously won over both The Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Fiction. A lot of people are like, oh, it shouldn't have won because of that. And maybe. I would be pretty confident about putting it in A. Next up is Silence of the Lambs. This is one of the most bizarre Best Picture winners, and that it is ostensibly a horror movie that won Best Picture, which basically never happens. I mean, you'll see here, there's no other movies that are even in the realm of the darkness of Silence of the Lambs. And there's the constant debate of, is it a thriller, is it a horror movie, whatever. For me, Silence of the Lambs, it is an S-tier movie, easily. So, good job, Academy, on that account. Okay, The Departed, Scorsese, winning Best Director in addition to Best Picture. Scorsese definitely deserves those Academy Awards. A lot of people say he won, but for the wrong movie. It's definitely not his best movie, The Departed. It is very good, though. I think Departed is an A tier. I talked about this on my Martin Scorsese tier list, so check that video out to hear more thoughts on that. West Side Story. I'm going to say up front, I'm not really a musical lover. But the Academy is. The Academy loves musicals. There's a whole bunch of musicals on this list. West Side Story is pretty good, I guess. It's just not really my cup of tea. I'm going to give it a B. I think it's good. It's, it's whatever. I haven't seen the new Spielberg West Side Story, and I don't really have any plans to. Okay, Unforgiven. A lot of people love this movie. A lot of people call it one of the best Westerns or the best Western. I don't hold Unforgiven in quite as high esteem. I would rewatch it, though, because maybe my opinion would sway. It's a Western that's an anti-Western, but is still a Western, It's deconstructionist, but not fully. I think that's maybe my issue with it, is it doesn't, fully commit to its themes. It's a half measure, to borrow a term from Mike Ehrmantraut. It's a B for me. Okay, French Connection. I love this one, Best Picture. It doesn't seem like a Best Picture winner at all. It's so grungy and guerrilla. And I love William Friedkin as a director. It probably would be my Best Picture pick for that year, but that doesn't necessarily make it an S-tier movie. I think it's an A-tier movie. But I do love it. I think it's great. A is you got to work really hard to get an S. I always say this, but if you're new to the channel, if you haven't seen my other tier lists, S-tier I try to keep pure. I try to, I don't want to give out S-tiers willy-nilly, because then that kind of, it lowers the importance. It lowers what it means to get an S-tier. You got to do a lot to get an S tier. A tier is, you got to do a fucking lot to get an A tier even. B tier is still solid, great movie. C tier is still good movie. D tier is maybe still worth watching, but with a caveat or whatever. E tier is now we're in the territory of probably don't watch this one. F tier is just outright bad. Okay, The Apartment. This is a great Billy Wilder movie. Very well written. Billy Wilder was an excellent writer. Jack Lemmon gives a great performance. It's an A tier. But I will say, I'll go out of my way here to say that The Apartment is one that I could see moving up to an S tier upon rewatch. So I'll throw that out there. Next up is The Deer Hunter. Now we're fucking talking. Deer Hunter does enough to earn that lauded S tier slot. Deer Hunter is fucking excellent. I love that it won Best Picture. De Niro's great in his lead role. Obviously, John Cazale is an important part of the legacy of this movie. This was Cazale's final movie. It was released posthumously. He was already sick and already debilitated while they were filming this movie. And he passed away after filming was complete, but before the movie was released. You might be on this channel because of my John Cazale video. That video got way more views than my videos usually get. by orders of several magnitudes. Deer Hunter is a phenomenal piece of work, but also Christopher Walken is unbelievably good on this role. If you've only seen Christopher Walken be like the goofy weird guy, you gotta check out some of his movies where he's like a major character, and he gives fantastic performances sometimes. He's really great at this. The whole cast is really good. Like Meryl Streep is excellent too. She's phenomenal. The direction from Michael Cimino, unbelievably good. I love that it skips past the war, basically. We get so much time devoted to building up these characters and learning who they are. And then, like, before they go to war, there's like the whole big wedding sequence and all that. And then I love that when they get to the war, it's just hard cut. The shit has already hit the fan. De Niro's just like on his own getting captured. I love that it skips past all that. That it skips past them in like training and them flying over and them on their like first mission or whatever. I love that it's just hard cut from, yeah, we're about to go to war, to holy fuck, the war has already destroyed us. I love that. It's such a great, for me, that's like one of those moments of editing, that hard cut to De Niro like already in the shit. For me, that's one of those like great edits that gets talked about, like the cut from the bone to the spaceship in 2001: A Space Odyssey, the cut from Lawrence of Arabia blowing the match out to the sunset, right? And then that cut to De Niro in the shit. For me, that's one of those great editing moments. Michael Cimino, fantastic director whose career was unfortunately derailed by his next movie, Heaven's Gate, which was a big, expensive flop. And Heaven's Gate is a pretty good movie too. It's kind of weird that it flopped so hard because it's pretty good. Okay, next up is The Last Emperor. Is a pretty rare pick for the Academy, and that it's a foreign language film that won Best Picture. It's set in China. It's a period piece. It spans several decades. It basically tracks the entire life of this one man. This is weird, but the reason why I actually watched this for the first time is I watched it specifically to hear David Byrne's soundtrack. David Byrne of Talking Heads fame. Talking Heads is my favorite band. David Byrne of Talking Heads fame he composed the original score for The Last Emperor. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And he actually won an Oscar for his score. And it's a fantastic score, fully deserving of that. So I watched it just to hear the score, and yeah, I was captivated. It's an excellent movie. It's a pretty long movie. It's over 3 hours long, I think. I mean, so is Deer Hunter. The Deer Hunter is a very long movie too. The Last Emperor it's excellent. I don't know if it quite gets the S tier. I think it's either A tier. But either way, I am happy with it getting Best Picture. So far, the Academy hasn't really missed too much. Like we talk about the Oscars getting it wrong. They often do pick the wrong movie, but it's usually still a movie that's really good, even if it's maybe not the movie that deserved to win in whatever year. Anyway, next up is Titanic. This is the first one where I really disagree with the Academy, but it's also the first one where I think I disagree with the general populace. A lot of people really love Titanic. I do not like this movie at all, really. I talked about this on my James Cameron tier list. Go check out that video to see more. I forget where I ranked it. I will say, for how much I don't like it, it is very well made, right? Like the special effects are all impressive, especially for their time, but like they hold up well. The whole ship sinking sequence is great. I just don't care about these characters, and I don't care about their romance, and I don't care about really the story being told. But it's all very well made, which is why I think I'm going to give it a C tier. My enjoyment is more like an E, but it's well made enough that I will give it a C. It's not for me. I get why people like it though. Since my tier list is overflowing, I'm going to move these all up a little bit so that they're all on screen now. There we go. Okay, next up is Gladiator. I talked about Gladiator on my Ridley Scott tier list. Go check out that video to hear more. Again, I forget where I put it there. I'm going to put it in B though. Gladiator is another one that I kind of disagree with people like Titanic. I don't like it as much as most people seem to. What I do really love is Joaquin Phoenix's performance. He's excellent. He steals the show for me, Joaquin Phoenix. He deserved Best Supporting Actor, but I don't know about the movie getting Best Picture. I would not give it Best Picture. Okay, next up is Shape of Water. I like Guillermo del Toro, and I do think this is one of his best movies. It might even be my favorite of his movies. I don't think it would personally be my Best Picture of that year. So The Other Shape of Water came out. It was nominated alongside Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, Three Buildings Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Get Out, The Post, Call Me By Your Name, and Lady Bird. I think Shape of Water is a fine winner out of that group. I think a lot of people expected Get Out to win, but I do think Shape of Water is a better movie than Get Out. Personally, I enjoy Lady Bird, Call Me By Your Name, and Three Billboards more than Shape of Water. But it's not like I'm angry that Shape of Water won. It's good. It's not S tier for me. Shape of Water is like strong B, weak A. You know, thinking back on it, I think I'm gonna give it an A because especially because I really like the cast. Like I love Michael Shannon. He's one of my favorite actors. Michael Shannon's my favorite living actor, I think. Michael Stuhlbarg, I love seeing him get a good role. He's still underappreciated. That guy's been given great performances for years, and he still doesn't get enough credit. He's really good. Richard Jenkins is great. Sally Hawkins is great, even though her character is mute and doesn't say anything. She gives a good silent performance. Octavia Spencer is pretty good. Okay, next up is Spotlight. Spotlight did absolutely not deserve to win Best Picture. If I was getting a nomination, it didn't deserve to win. It is a good movie, though. I think Spotlight gets a lot of hate, and I think it only gets that hate because it won Best Picture. I think if it didn't win Best Picture, I don't think it would get like any of the hate that it gets because it's not a bad movie at all. It's a perfectly fine movie. It's pretty good. It's a little Oscar baity, and I think it wins because it's tackling such important subject matter. But the thing is that it's tackling really important subject matter in a very pedestrian way. Like the cast is really good, and they do kind of get their moments to shine, but the characters are all pretty facile. The cinematography is extremely bland, and I don't think it digs deep enough into its subject matter, even though the subject matter is very important. And I think it just won Best Picture because the subject matter is so important. I don't think it particularly explored that subject matter that well. This one, I think the Academy made the wrong choice. It's not bad though. I would give it maybe a C, like strong C. Okay, The King's Speech. This is one that I've heard a lot of people not like. This is like an inverted Titanic for me, where I like it more than the general populace. I really like The King's Speech a lot. I've seen it, I think 3 times, and I've enjoyed it a lot every time. I love Colin Firth's performance and Jeffrey Rush's performance, as well as Helena Bonham Carter. I think she's really good in this. I think it's one of her best performances. It's all about the performances for me. And Tom Hooper brought really great performances out of his cast. It's very well shot. It's also very funny. This is a great character. It's really emotional. Now I will say it's extremely Oscar baity. Like it's Academy standard. Movies that are like Academy standard, meaning movies that are tailored to like be exactly what the Academy always goes for Best Picture winners. Those movies that are Academy standard is what I call them. Like The Imitation Game, which ended up winning Best Picture, but it was nominated. I think it got Best Screenplay, whatever. The Imitation Game is an Academy standard movie that really rubs me the wrong way because it's so Oscar baiting, because it's so Academy standard. For whatever reason, The King's Speech, it very much is, I will openly admit, it is very much Academy standard. It's very Oscar bait. But it works for me. I don't know. I like the script enough, and I love the performances and the characters. I think it's very good. Again, I wouldn't go S tier, but I'd definitely go A tier with it, and it's a fine win for me. Okay, Sound of Music. Like I mentioned, musicals aren't really my thing. Sound of Music is good, though. I'll put it in B. I mean, honestly, I could be swayed to A. It's a very good. I'll go ahead and give it an A. It's a very good musical. It's just not exactly my kind of thing. 12 Years a Slave. S tier. Bang. There we go. Now we're talking. It's a great movie. I have a video essay all about 12 Years a Slave, so instead of rehashing what I've said about it before, I will say go watch that video essay. Okay, next up, Godfather. S tier, easy, bang. Such a good cast all around. Francis Ford Coppola working at the height of his powers, doing excellent work. I recommend watching that one particular behind-the-scenes video where he shows his script for the movie, which was like not a script, but it was the novel that he transferred into this second book with like large margins, like on the leafed around it, and he has like tons of notes in the margins and stuff. It's really insightful into his process, and it shows how deep into it he was going, and it shows why it turns out as good as it does. Great movie. Okay, Schindler's List, fully deserving of the Best Picture win. I might go S tier with it. Then again, I might go A tier with it. I might go like strong A. I think I'm going to go ahead and give it the S. I think it's good enough for that. It's extremely emotional. It's heavy. There's a lot of World War II movies, And like, I think you could say Saving Private Ryan is Spielberg's World War II movie, whereas Schindler's List is his Holocaust movie. Like it's not really about the war; it's about like the concentration camps and whatnot. There's a little bit of the war in there, but it's devastating how it's presented. I think this is a really important piece of filmmaking, fully deserving of that win. Okay, Return of the King. It's cool that the Lord of the Rings trilogy earned a Best Picture now. That makes sense that it was for the last one. I'm not as fanatical about Lord of the Rings as a lot of people are. I do like the trilogy, and I think it deserves all of its love. Lord of the Rings is a trilogy of movies that I can respect and appreciate just a little bit more than I actively enjoy them. I do enjoy them a lot, by the way, but they're great and they're highly entertaining and they're exceptionally well made in terms of like the special effects, and the scope and the spectacle of them is like just mind-boggling even still to this day. The fact of like, they look so unbelievably expensive, and it really does transport you to another world. It's a real achievement in filmmaking. I'm gonna go A tier. Platoon. Okay, I don't love this one as much as a lot of people do. I think it is a fine war movie, but for me that's where it ends, and it doesn't. I don't think it's like one of the best war movies. I don't think it's particularly great. A lot of people like it because they're like, oh, if you analyze it, then, Willem Dafoe and Tom Berenger's characters, they represent the duality of man. And it's like, yeah, no fucking shit, they represent the duality of man. It's like, it could not be more obvious. People like to act like that's some subtle thematic work, but it's so on the nose and obvious. It's really obtuse, and it's too on the nose for me. It's like too obvious. It's lacking in subtlety. I also don't really like Charlie Sheen's main character. And I don't think he's bad in it, by the way. His character's a little too bland. He's a little too, like, audience surrogate for my liking, which isn't always a problem, but I think it is a little bit in this case. And by the way, I do like Tom Berenger and Willem Dafoe. I especially love Willem Dafoe as actors in general, and also they do a good job. It's really the script that I don't love. And then as far as, like, the battle scenes, they don't really do anything for me. I don't really love how they're presented. And then, yeah, it just feels kind of like a bog standard war movie. Like if you're comparing like Vietnam movies, Deer Hunter is a million times better. Apocalypse Now is a million times better. Platoon doesn't do anything that they didn't do much better. It's not bad. I might give it a B. I think I'd give it a C though. And remember, C is still like a good movie. Okay, Patton. Patton's very good. Patton is a much better war movie. I still don't think it's an S tier, but it's good. It's very well directed. And I love George C. Scott. Absolutely adore George C. Scott. He's a wonderful actor. I think I'm going to go B tier for Patton, though. Okay, American Beauty. I don't think it would get Best Picture for me, but it is very good. The themes are interesting. They're very, they're kind of creepy in retrospect, knowing now what we know about Kevin Spacey. It's a shame Spacey turned out to be such a sex freak piece of shit. It's a shame, because he gave a lot of great performances in the days of past, and now it's hard to kind of watch stuff in him when he's in a big role. His performance in this was great. It really was. It's a great performance, and it's just like now it's kind of hard to watch. In ruining his own legacy, he kind of hurt the legacy of this movie, unfortunately. But he's not the only actor in it. He's not like the guy who made the whole movie, so it's a shame that everyone else's work now has to like take a hit permanently because he turned out to be a piece of shit. The plastic bag thing is one of those divisive things where people either go, oh, that is kind of beautiful, or they go, that's pretentious as shit, fuck this movie. It's very divisive, people hate it. I land on the more like, I do appreciate the artistic side of what's being said by the movie in that. I land on that side of it. I think there's also some really funny stuff in this movie, like the bit with the drive-through, I think is hilarious. The Kevin Spacey creep factor bumps it down to a B. I'd probably give it a B anyway, actually. I'm going to give it a B. Gone with the Wind. Talk about a movie that hasn't aged well, but is exceptionally well made. It really is epic in scope, grand in scale. The performances are wonderful from the two leads. Some of the supporting performances are a little weird. But yeah, this movie is a little racist. It's not like it's the only movie from its time that has this issue. A lot of movies from this time have them. There are a lot of movies that are like sympathetic to the Confederacy. It's not as bad as like Birth of a Nation, if you're comparing it to that, because most of the movie doesn't revolve around its politics. Most of it is like this epic love story. It is a very well-made movie. I'd probably give it an A. Okay, Oliver, again, another musical. They just don't really do it for me, musicals, you know. There are some, like I love the Blues Brothers, you know. That's kind of like the one musical that I love. I also really like La La Land. That one did a lot for me. Oliver, it's fine, whatever. C tier, I guess. I don't know. On the Waterfront, this is an important movie for the development of acting. Marlon Brando kind of like changed acting in Hollywood. If you're unfamiliar, it's an interesting bit of history. Brando does deserve a lot of credit for bringing naturalism to acting. It's easy to forget, but when you look back, there is kind of like there's pre-Brando acting and there's post-Brando acting. Acting was very like proper and everyone projects and it's all, you know, whatever. Brando tried to make his characters more naturalistic and feel like real people versus feeling like actors, which was just kind of like the accepted way of doing things. Like there are great performances from pre-Brando days, for sure, like without a doubt. But it's a particular type of acting that has gone out of favor. He deserves a lot of credit for that. I'm not like the biggest Brando fan, actually. I think all the behind-the-scenes stories of him, like, you know, ruining shots and making his actors hold cue cards and refusing to follow the script and stuff, I kind of think he's just an asshole. So I'm not a big fan of him, but he does give some great performances, including on the Waterfront. I think this is before he went all egomaniacal and started being a piece of shit to everybody. So I think this is when he was still, you know, trying and giving good roles. On the Waterfront is pretty good. I think I'd give it a B. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, S tier. It's easy to tell for me which ones get S tier for the most part. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is incredible. That's up there with like the best movies ever made, as far as I'm concerned. Definitely one of the best of the decade, one of the best of the great Jack Nicholson's career. The book is pretty good too, but I will say the movie is better than the book, and it changes a lot. Like Nicholson's character isn't even the main character of the book. The main character is Chief, who is a supporting character in the movie. Like Chief is the narrator of the book. It's from his perspective. Also, Nicholson's character is like a red-haired Irish guy, like very different character, you know. But Nicholson just completely makes the character his own, and it so perfectly embodies the counterculture spirit of both Nicholson's screen persona and the kind of entire counterculture movement that was big at the time in the 70s and in the kind of like New Hollywood era. Even though this doesn't really feel exactly like a New Hollywood movie, it feels a little like post that. Every single aspect of this movie is wonderful. I could talk much more about this movie, but I will skip it for the time being because this is a long video. Okay, Parasite. I was so happy that Parasite won Best Picture. I didn't expect it to because a foreign language film winning Best Picture is extremely rare, especially winning Best Foreign Language Film and winning Best Picture. In my Bong Joon-ho tier list, I think I might have given Parasite an A, but thinking about it more and rewatching it since then, I think I am going to go ahead and give it an S tier, if I didn't already give it an S tier there. It's great. It's very, very good. Okay, A Beautiful Mind. This is a good movie. I watched it without knowing what it was about, which I will say is the right way to watch it because it doesn't have like a big twist ending, but it does reveal itself to be much more complicated and about like a very different subject matter than you would think from the whole first like act or even the first half of the movie. I didn't see any trailers, so I don't know if the trailers spoil it or whatever. I would recommend, if you haven't seen the trailers and haven't read a plot synopsis and you've never seen it before, try to go in without knowing anything about it. There's some really good subversion going on, and I really enjoyed my experience of watching it. I think it's a B tier, though. I wouldn't go any higher than that. Russell Crowe's performance is wonderful. I think it's one of his best performances for sure. I don't know if it's his best all around, but it is very good. It's one of Ron Howard's best movies as a director, possibly his best that I've seen of his anyway, but he does have quite a few movies I haven't seen. I'm not upset that it won Best Picture, even though I wouldn't give it the highest rating. I think it's very good. Godfather Part 2, S tier. If the first Godfather is S tier, Godfather Part 2 is easily an S tier. I think it's I think it's better than the first one. I'm one of the people who does think it is better than the first one. And I'm someone who thinks Goodfellas is better than the Godfather movies. So that really tells you how much I love Goodfellas. Godfather Part 2 is excellent. I think a big part of why it's so much better is because they do so much more with Fredo. The Fredo character, John Cazale, is given so much more to work with. His entire part of the movie is devastating and magnetic, and he is absolutely incredible, especially in his like big showstopper scenes when he's really allowed to show all that he can do. De Niro's entire like subplot where we're watching young Vito Corleone rise to power. It's the rise to power and the fall from power in these two parallel storylines. It's brilliant. The fact that it came out so soon after the first Godfather is really impressive. And the fact that it came out the same year as The Conversation, which didn't win because it was nominated against The Godfather Part 2. How fucking incredible is that? Anyway, excellent piece of work. Again, check out my John Cazale video. I would guess you've probably already seen my John Cazale video since that's my most viewed video by far. Anyway, NomadLand. This was very recent. Best Picture. It's very divisive in that people either really like it or they go, why the fuck is this getting so much acclaim? It's boring, it's whatever, it's dull. I don't think that. I think it's a really beautiful movie. I think there's a lot of poignancy to it, a lot of timeliness to it. Absolutely stunning cinematography. Like the way that it showcases exteriors, it like reframes the outdoors in a new way, in a way that is perfectly resonant to the themes of the movie. Frances McDormand is excellent. I love the way Chloe Zhao uses real people in this. Like, if you didn't know, a lot of the cast are not actors. They're real people who are interacting unscripted with Frances McDormand. And I think it's beautiful. I love unscripted, kind of like improvisational stuff. It's something I want to try in my own work. I think it's really beautifully done. I get why people could be like bored by it or whatever. The narrative is very loose. It's adapted from a book that's like a non-fiction book. You know, it's really a movie about capturing an idea rather than a story. I really like that, but I get why it's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm gonna give it an A tier. No Country for Old Men. This one is kind of like Silence of the Lambs, not in that it's a horror movie, but in that it's a poster with somebody's face with a little thingy over their mouth. No, that's actually not what I was going to say. I was going to say it's like Silence of the Lambs, and then it's an outside-the-box pick. It doesn't really feel like a typical Best Picture winner, but I'm so glad it won because it gets the S tier for me as well. I love the Coen brothers. Together, they are one of my favorite directors, if you want to call them a singular director. And same with like writing and everything. I absolutely love the Coen brothers, and this is one of their best movies. Even though it doesn't even feel as much like a Coen Brothers movie, like it doesn't have the dark humor and like playfulness that a lot of the movies have, but it's wonderful. I would honestly think the Coen Brothers deserve several Best Picture wins. Like they deserve Best Picture for, you know, for Fargo, for Barton Fink, for The Big Lebowski, even though they would never win. You know, the point is the Coen Brothers are great. They've made a lot of excellent movies. No Country for Old Men, fully deserving of that win. Glad to see it. Okay, Moonlight, another one of the more recent ones. Moonlight has a bit of a confused legacy because this is the year that they announced that La La Land won Best Picture when it actually lost to Moonlight. I like La La Land a lot, but I am glad that Moonlight was the real winner because Moonlight is a much better movie. Moonlight is a monumental piece of work. Barry Jenkins did such phenomenal work behind the camera. The whole cast is really good, but I would say Barry Jenkins in the director's chair and in the like co-writer's chair. He's really the star of the show. His direction is flawless. Okay, Midnight Cowboy, the only X-rated movie to win an Oscar. And then you say that, you know, it has this reputation of being this like, it's a movie about a male prostitute and it's X-rated and you expect it to be all hardcore. It's really not. It's pretty tame. It didn't deserve an X rating. This is just the MPAA being homophobic or being, you know, all prudes. Like the MPAA is fucking ridiculous. I recommend researching their history. You can watch that documentary. This film is not yet rated. They do a good job of breaking down why the MPAA sucks. Oh, by the way, they're not even called the MPAA anymore. Now they're just the MPA. They dropped the A. Now they're just the Motion Picture Association. They dropped the of America because they're trying to be more international. And I say, do not give them more power, give them less power. Abolish the MPAA, you know, rise up, abolish the MPAA. More filmmakers should like not even send their movies in for ratings, I think, because like who gives a shit, right? Like it used to be movies like were not allowed to screen in theaters if they didn't get approved by the ratings board, right? Back when it was approved or denied. Then it was like a movie could only be screened in theaters. Like NC-17 meant your viewing audience is going to be chopped down to a tiny little sliver of the audience. And then if you're X-rated or if you don't get a rating at all, if you go unrated, it means theaters won't show you and all that. I say, fuck all that. Like, haven't we moved past that as a society? Especially with like streaming. Like the streamers don't seem to care as much if a movie's unrated. Like a lot of like Netflix original movies are unrated just because they didn't bother getting MPAA certification. The MPAA is a bunch of prudes and they can fuck off. Anyway, Midnight Cowboy, very good movie. It's kind of weird to think in retrospect that this is where that Harry Nilsson song came from, because it kind of feels out of place, but it's used very well. It's used frequently. The two lead performances are great. It's a shame that Jon Voight turned out to be such a piece of shit in real life, because he was a really good actor once upon a time. But fuck modern day Jon Voight. Fuck every inch of him. At any rate, it is a good movie. It's not an S tier movie. I don't even know if it's A tier, maybe. I think I'd give it a B tier. It's cool that it won Best Picture, though, that an X-rated movie, you know, it showed that the Academy had a little backbone back in the, you know, back in the olden days, pre-modern days, you know. Okay, Annie Hall. First off, fuck Woody Allen. Like, it's a shame that so many great movies have been made by people who turned out to be such massive pieces of shit. Because Annie Hall is a really great movie. It really is a fantastic movie, but he's such a piece of shit that it's like, I don't know. I personally have a hard time watching any of his movies now, knowing, you know, what kind of, you know, monster he is. If you can separate the art from the artist, then I'm sure you'll enjoy the movie. It is a good movie. Like, I watched this before I knew the extent of his allegations. I watched it a long time ago. I don't think I'll be rewatching it because of that. But, like, it's a shame that, like, his legacy hurts the work of Diane Keaton in this movie, because she does a great job, and she's not a crazy piece of shit as far as I know, you know? With Woody Allen in the lead role, and he's supposed to be this, like, lovable main character, it's, like, hard to watch it and get on board with it at this point. It is a really good movie, though. I don't know. It would be an A-tier movie. I think I'll leave it an A, but just knowing that, like, it's hard to even appreciate at this point. Okay, Green Book. Oh my God. Here's a case of a movie that should not have won Best Picture by any stretch of the imagination. It's so weird that this won Best Picture. It's a clear-cut case of the Academy going, oh no, people called us racist in the past, so we better give Best Picture to this movie that's about racism, thinking that that'll like help their reputation. Even though like it's still got the white savior protagonist, and it's still directed by a white dude. It's directed by one of the Farrelly brothers, you know? It's them trying to do image management, reputation management, and just like horribly missing the mark again. Though I will say, I don't like hate Green Book as much as a lot of people do. I don't even think it's a bad movie. I think like the performances are really good. Like I get enough out of Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali's performances that I still enjoy the movie, even though I think the script is extremely reductive and simplistic, and it presents a very narrow view of racism and a very like cartoonish view of overcoming segregation and shit. The performances kind of carry it for me. If there were lesser actors in these roles, this would be an awful movie. The actors salvage it a little bit. Like I think they're both kind of funny and they both have good dramatic moments. Like I like Mahershala Ali's one big monologue where he's like screaming and crying out in the rain. He does a good job. It's a very Oscar-y like moment, you know, where it feels a little Oscar baity, but you know, it kind of feels earned in the context of it. I don't know. I don't hate it as much as most people, but it is like C tier at best. That's maybe being a little generous. Like because of the performances, it would be E tier probably with lesser actors in the parts. Their performances for me are good enough that they elevate the material substantially, but still nowhere near Best Picture worthy. Okay, The Hurt Locker. This is another one I do not think deserves Best Picture, like not even close. I think it's pretty good. I think it's one of Catherine Bigelow's better movies. I just recently did a Catherine Bigelow tier list, so check that video to hear more thoughts on The Hurt Locker. I'm going to go C tier. Where I don't even remember where I put it in Bigelow's tier list. I might have given it a B, but I'm going to give it C here. Okay, It Happened One Night. This is one of the real old school ones. This is a screwball comedy. Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert, they're both very good. They're both very, they have really good chemistry together. This is a Frank Capra movie. He made a lot of great movies back in the old Hollywood system. It's very good. I would say it's probably worthy of Best Picture. I don't remember off the top of my head all the movies it was nominated against or everything else that came out in that year. I think it's very good though. I think I'd give it an A tier. Okay, Kramer versus Kramer. This is a phenomenal drama. Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep are both excellent in this. The direction is strong as well. This is a great movie. I love the filmmaking spirit behind this movie. It feels like a New Hollywood movie in spirit, even though I think it actually technically came after the New Hollywood era, ended as far as the actual bookends of that era are concerned. I think it came after that, but it has that spirit to the performances, like the rawness of the performances and the rawness of the direction as well. It's just a great drama. It's very similar to Marriage Story. If you've seen Marriage Story, it's a pretty similar story. It's great. I don't know if I would quite go S tier. I might go A tier or S tier. I think I'm going to go A. Okay, Lawrence of Arabia. This is an epic. And when I say an epic, I'm using epic as a noun, not as an adjective. It is an epic. The Hollywood used to produce epics, like this and like Ben-Hur and like Cleopatra and in the other David Lean movies, he kind of specialized in these epics, these big, huge, sweeping tales that are very long and massive in scope and massive in budget and big, gorgeous Technicolor, all these vistas, Lawrence of Arabia, it's very good. The two halves feel very separate. You can actually watch Lawrence of Arabia as like two movies. It's that big. It's that large. I think it's like 4 hours long, and they're divided up with an intermission in the middle. So it's like 2 hours, intermission, 2 hours. And the two halves feel separate enough. I think most people like the first half more, which is more like an adventure film, and they like the second half a little less, which is more like political. It's like the politics of the area and like negotiations and stuff. I loved both halves of it, and I think I liked the second half possibly even a little more. Maybe not. I don't know if I liked the second half more, but it definitely felt like it went by quicker. The first half I really enjoyed, but felt its length. The second half, because I did watch it in one sitting, I was like, oh, okay, get ready for the next 2 hours of this movie. And then the second half breezed right by, and I was really invested in the story. I think it is an S tier movie. It's an accomplishment for sure. Okay, Crash. Oh my God. Crash is one of the clear cut. It's this and Shakespeare in Love, which isn't in this list because I haven't seen it because its reputation is just so bad. Those are the two that people always use as the example of movies that should never have even been like nominated for Best Picture and they can't believe won. Crash, I went into with an open mind. Honestly, I watched Crash because I have a script that a couple people read the script and they were like, it has a similar structure to Crash, but it's not bad like Crash is. They're like, the structure is similar. And I was like, oh God, I guess I gotta watch Crash because I don't want to be evocative of that movie that everyone hates. So I watched Crash and I was like, oh yeah, this movie fucking sucks ass. Crash is an F tier movie. It's not horrible in every regard. Like some of the performances are okay, but it's just so misguided in its themes. It's kind of like Green Book in that it takes an extremely reductive stance on racism, but I would say it's much worse in that it gets like, honestly, it gets into some like outright kind of offensive territory in the way that it presents it. Like it portrays this like horrifically, violently racist police officer as like a good guy in the end. He has like a redemption. And it's like, fuck that noise, fuck that. If that's the message of this movie, that this cop is actually a good guy at heart, fuck that. F tier for that alone. But also it's just so cheesy and schmaltzy and melodramatic. And it's got this weird like, it feels like a Christian movie at points where it's like, God stopped the bullets or whatever. Is that what's supposed to have happened? It's like, oh, it was a miracle. Fuck that too. Okay. Anyway, I don't like what's going on. Whew, bad movie. Okay, Coda. This is the most recent Best Picture winner. And I wouldn't blame you for not even realizing that because the entire night was overshadowed by Will Smith marching up and slapping Chris Rock. That kind of took the wind out of Coda's sails, and every other Oscars winner that night, he made the whole night about him because he's a selfish little baby who can't take a joke and thinks physical violence is an appropriate response to a completely innocuous joke during a ceremony that has a history of roasting people as part of the thing. You're gonna sit in the front row and be that much of a little crybaby asshole? He ruined his own Oscars night. I can't believe they still gave him the Oscar. They should have done a last minute little revision. Coda's a fine movie. I think it's good. I don't think it deserved Best Picture though. This is another case of it feeling like the Academy is being a little like, I don't know. What I am really glad that Coda won was Best Supporting Actor for Troy Kotsur, because that guy gave a great performance, and he fully deserves it. What the movie doesn't deserve, I don't think, is Best Picture, and I don't think it really deserved Best Adapted Screenplay either, which I think it also won, or was at least nominated for. Because the screenplay is very familiar. It's kind of like, it's a movie you've seen before, and the only difference is it's a deaf family, which is an important difference, and that's what makes it a good movie and worth watching. I do think it's a good movie. I think I would give it a B. Everything's familiar. It's full of tropes and full of cliches. It's actually surprising that it works as well as it does. The performances are great from the whole cast. The entire main family, and also the teacher is really good as well. Even though he feels kind of like he's a little bit of a stock character, but that actor makes it his own. I was surprised how it did get me emotionally at the end, which I was surprised. I did not expect it to get me emotionally, given how familiar everything was. It was like, okay, I've been here, done that, seen this all before. The fact that it did hit me emotionally and I did feel connected to these characters is what bumps it up from a C to a B for me. This one I saw actually relatively recently. Casablanca was one of those big, huge movies that I had just never seen for whatever reason, Yeah, it fully lives up to the hype. It's an S-tier movie. It's excellent. Yeah, fantastic piece of work. Okay, The Sting. Before I talk about The Sting, I will say Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is one of my favorite movies ever. And The Sting is like a reteam of that. So I have a special love for The Sting because of that, because it's Robert Redford and Paul Newman, who were the titular Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or, flop it. Robert Redford, Sundance Kid, Butch Cassidy is Paul Newman. It's the two of them reteaming, also with director George Roy Hill. So it's like the whole same team coming back together. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is an easy S-tier movie for me. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. One of the best screenplays ever written, too, from William Goldman. So The Sting is a reteam from all of them. The Sting is excellent. You would think a reteam from those people couldn't live up to it. It does live up to it. Not in the sense that it's as good, because I do definitely prefer Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but The Sting is really good. I think it's another A. I might go all the way to S with it. I'm kind of torn. For me, it's directly in the middle of A and S. I think I'm going to go ahead and give it S, because it's so much fun. It's the pinnacle of the con man movie. It does get pretty over the top. Their final con is a little ridiculous, but it's just so much fun. I love the old-timey ragtime soundtrack. Is a lot of fun. I adore the hand-painted, I was gonna call them title cards, but they're more interstitial chapter breaks. So they're hand-painted and they're gorgeous. It's a great story with great likable characters. It really soars on the chemistry between Newman and Redford. Those two are such a good team. Okay, Birdman. I love Birdman. I'm going to go ahead and give Birdman the S tier. I don't know if that will surprise some people. I think some people might put it a little lower. I think it's excellent. I think it's a great use of the one take, give it the pseudo one take, that with the hidden cuts and whatnot. I think it justifies the one take thing so that it's not a gimmick. I talked about this at length on my Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu tier list, so go watch that tier list to hear more thoughts on it. I think it's great. I really love it. I think it's a great movie. And last up is Amadeus, which is another Milos Forman movie, who also directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Milos Forman does not get enough credit as like one of the great directors. Milos Forman, these two movies alone earned him a spot as like one of the great directors. Because Amadeus is another S tier movie. It's just a phenomenal drama. And also Man on the Moon is another great movie. And he had to put up with Jim Carrey's method acting craziness that whole time. He's just a phenomenal director. He didn't make like that many movies, but like what he made is all fantastic. The performances are excellent in Amadeus. I love F. Murray Abraham in this, especially. F. Murray Abraham is always great whenever he shows up in something. Like when he pops up in Inside Llewyn Davis in his small role, or when he's on Homeland, the TV show. He's just always really great. He doesn't have many like starring roles though. Amadeus gives him a great starring role, even though he's like the antagonist. He's like the antagonist and the protagonist kind of. He's Salieri. So here we go. This is where I rank the best pictures. Actually, surprisingly, I hadn't like gone through and figured out where these rank. It looks like the Academy actually does a pretty good job. Like I know everyone likes to make fun of them, and I mean, obviously there's a lot of movies that don't deserve Best Picture that get Best Picture. Crash in particular. Most of the movies that win are at least good movies. Maybe they weren't the Best Picture of that year or even the Best Picture of the nominations, but they are usually at least really good movies. So that's something. There are at least really great movies. And there are a lot of S-tier movies here. I think I might move Shape of Water down to a B, and I want to move Sound of Music down for sure, actually. Fuck it, I'm going to move Annie Hall down too. I could honestly see putting Coda in C. Yeah, I'm going to put Coda in C actually. I'm going to move Coda down. Yeah, let's go ahead and move Green Book down to D. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So yeah, the S tier is the most packed tier, but then A and B are pretty full as well. A few C's, one D, one F. And there are some other Best Picture winners that are, more questionable. Like I said, Shakespeare in Love is one that everyone just despises. I haven't seen that one because its reputation is so bad. I'm like, why? I'm not going to just watch it when everyone hates it, I've never heard one good thing about that movie. Here's the thing. There are a lot of Best Picture winners that don't really deserve to be called Best Picture of the Year, but most of them are at least good movies. It's not like bad movies, at least aren't winning Best Picture all that often. Usually they're pretty good movies, even if they aren't necessarily the best out of that year. You can subscribe and stick around for more tier lists and video essays and reviews and all kinds of other stuff. I'll see you next time. So long.